Hi, this is the last trapeze drafting analysis. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not boring you too much. This is it's a very famous Balenciaga because the whole dress has only got one seam down the center back. So it's a really clever pattern. It's not strictly a trapeze, but I just included it because you can use details for a trapeze for the hem. So I'm gonna just draw it out for you, and then I'm quickly and hopefully competently gonna sketch the flat pattern for you, which might end up in disaster because I'm doing this all freehand. I had a quick look this morning when I was uploading the YouTube, but I really just sometimes when you look, because we did this video for YouTube just before we all went into lockdown, and we hadn't finished it, so we uploaded it this morning, and I started looking at the images, and there's some of my favorite images. I suddenly thought, ooh, I want to have a look at them properly. And that's what I'm really noticing is being in lockdown, is you get to appreciate not having to be anywhere. So this is quite clever. It's very Balenciaga. So Dior always has the bows, and it's quite, it's not cute, but it's quite some bows. It's a Dior bow. It's quite neat and pretty. Balenciaga is always more, he's been called the master of couture and of fabric. He just treats fabric beautifully. So he's just got that sort of tie, which is very loosely drapely knotted, so it's much more grown up maybe than a bow. And then the dress is literally just big, and the armhole is too big. And then of course it goes down and it goes up here, and then it goes into that massive trail at the end. And then you can see from the inside it's not lined, it's all, and we can see it all you can see it from the top as well. I wonder whether the top might have a facing, because the bottom, you can sort of tell that it's rolled stitch, so by hand, like a MS silk square or any silk square. It's got so beautiful hand stitched rolled hem, but I think the top has got a facing in there. So I think the top half, and I would actually mention rather than a curved one, I think it might have, either it has got an undergarment like this, and that would work out all the facing and stuff all in once, or if I think it probably has some sort of underskirt, because this is the 60s or late 50s, and then they might have a self facing around the neck and the armholes, and then like a slip in a different fabric. If the mat hasn't got amazing archive online, and you can sometimes actually see the undergarments or the bits which are invisible, and they're actually quite homemade, because nowadays of course factories are much bigger, so the quality now is absolutely amazing. So back when you might have had a master like Balenciaga, but the machines and the amount they did were much smaller, so it was much more hand stitched and handmade rather than perfectly finished like a lot of the stuff is nowadays. So I just quickly wanted to sketch out the pattern for you. So you've got your center front, which is on fold. And then you've got this might be a disaster, but let's hope it works. You got your front neck and your shoulders. And I think it's just got seams at the shoulder, and then the whole dress is one piece. So it's like this. And then it goes into your back. And the back neck, you can see, is really low. And then I'm gonna just fit it on the page, maybe not. The back goes down and then it goes up, and that's your center back. And this is quite a straight version, and I'm quickly gonna draw you another version, slightly smaller. So this was quite a straight version, but what you could do, which I think he has done, which is even more stunning to go volume, I think it's nearly a circle. So I think it might be something mad like, so this is my shoulder, this is my armhole, this is my back shoulder, this is my back armhole. I think it's something like this. So I think it's either this is my center front. I think it's either nearly a half circle. So if we drew it as a circle, it's a bit like there's that really nice pattern cutter and fashion designer. I think he's called Julian Clary, and he does all that zero waste pattern cutting, which is very clever. And he does something similar. It's either a semicircle, which I don't think it's a full circle. So it's a semicircle with your center front and your center back. And then the seam goes more like, you have to play around with it, but it's flattened at the center front, and then you got the trail. And I wonder whether this might be the fabric width, so it would be 150 exactly, which makes sense lengthwise, and then this would be around 3 meters of fabric. And it's a really iconic dress. It's very clever, but I think you could easily try it out at home in different fabrics. Make a mini version to begin with, but that'd be amazing for a special occasion. But also if you did it out of a really thin fabric, like a really floaty silk, it would just drape. And if you made the trail less noticeable, so it might just be slightly asymmetric. You don't want to make it too big, otherwise it looks like these weird dresses you had a few years ago, where it's too much of difference, because he's done it quite beautifully, because it must be just the knee and then it just touches the floor. But you could make it a bit less obvious and it'd be a really beautiful dress. And once you got the pattern figured out, it'd be really easy to sew, which is always great. I hope you enjoyed this Balenciaga dress as much as I did, and thank you very much for watching.